Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny Show. Why is this show called this, you may ask, so I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I love working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I'll introduce you to my wonderful returning guest, Marilyn Devonish. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching this show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both of us to connect with my like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Rae, and I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy. And I'm a spiritual guide and healer who is passionate about helping you reconnect with your divine presence and step into your purpose. Now, through angelic Reiki, angel oracle cards, guided meditations, and exploring past and future lives, I support you in healing your past and creating a soul aligned future. Now, my journey has taught me that with the right tools and guidance, we can all connect with our higher selves, embrace transformation, and live a life full of abundance and fulfillment. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation or oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's returning guest, Marilyn Devonish, about unlocking the power of your soul plan. Now, Marilyn, the neuro success coach and rapid transformation specialist, is a business graduate, corporate trainer, management consultant, specialist remote work and implementation consultant since 2003, and a freelance writer. She is a certified trainer of NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, soul plan reader, soul plan instructor, a certified photo reader, accelerated learning instructor, and multidisciplinary therapist, including a practitioner EFT, emo trance, DNA, theta healing, Hawaiian Huna, access consciousness, archetypal type profiling, energetic NLP, past life regression, opening the heart, future life progression, and Reiki. How she finds time to do anything, I have no idea. Now, Marilyn has been in the field of personal development since the year 2000 after giving up her chartered accountancy studies to become a coach and hypnotherapist instead. Now, with testimonials such as I had a soul plan reading, it was eerily accurate and totally reflective of my journey and where I am currently. It really helped click things into place and has given me confirmation of my direction. Thank you so much for this gift. And Marilyn Devonish is an amazing therapist who resonates a genuine and infectious, enthusiastic, vibrant energy that you can't help but feel good about. A session with Marilyn is always relaxing, informative, and I have to say, a lot of fun. She helps you think in a different way and will have you feeling more positive and happy about your direction in life in no time. So, without further delay, hello, Marilyn, and a warm welcome back to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
Oh, Rae, thank you so much. I'm absolutely fabulous. And I have to say, I've been doing interviews since, I don't know, nearly 25 years. I think that is the first time anyone has ever gone through and read any of my testimonial. So that's a first. Thank you.
Do you know something? If I can find testimonials for people, then I love doing it because sometimes we forget how good we are, and when people remind us, we're like, oh yeah, I can do that. So you're welcome on that one. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind everyone watching that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Marilyn and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy, even if you're watching this on the replay. So, Marilyn, why don't you remind us about your journey and how soul plan readings are a powerful and unique way to gain insight into our life purpose, heal old patterns, and reconnect with our souls, true path?
No, absolutely. And for me, the soul plan, it was interest. If I go back to the start of the personal development journey, because people might go, well, hold on a minute, you've gone from studying to be a chartered accountant to a hypnotherapist. That's a little bit weird. And I agree, it was a little bit weird and it wasn't the plan. But I was very quiet and very shy, lacking in confidence, very low self-esteem. And so somebody recommended a communication skills course. And that's what I thought I signed up for. And it wasn't until I got the joining instructions that talked about NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and Huna. I was like, oh, no. This is not what I've signed up for. I need a refund. So I actually phoned them up and I said those words. This is not what I signed up for. I need a refund. And they said, if you don't get a massive value from the training at the end, we'll give you a refund. So I then ended up going to the training, hopping mad, really annoyed, and I just went to get my money back. So I was like, there's no way they're keeping that money, because it was pushing up to £5,500 or something, a considerable amount of money. And so that's how I ended up on the training. Now, of course, as they say, the rest is history. Once I finally let go of the sides about day 3.5 and stopped being completely facetious and trying to catch them out, I made a decision. I says, look, this is nonsense. There's no, and at that point I was also suicidal. I'd contemplated suicide the month before. And I was like, there's no way to just talking to someone and floating up above one's timeline can have any effect. So let me just jump in with both feet, do everything they tell me to do, prove that it's absolute nonsense, just get my money back, I'm out of here. But once I, of course, decided to jump in with both feet and do all the exercises, the rest, as they say, is history. I was completely transformed. So that's how that came about. And then now it would have been, oh my God, probably would have been around 2010. Once I got into personal development, I was like a kid in a candy store, because it was so exciting that there are all these, it was a whole new world. I did a business studies degree and a postgraduate marketing diploma, and I'd worked since I was 15 in offices and for organizations. So it was like a whole new world. And around 2010/11, I was like, Marilyn, you have got enough certificates to wallpaper a whole room. No more courses for you until you've implemented everything that you've got. And no more courses until you come across something that you haven't already done in some way, shape, or form. And that's either going to be a benefit to your own life, be a benefit to your clients, and ideally both. And so I didn't do any trainings, didn't do any courses. I was just implementing everything I was learning, going through the books and the CDs and the cassette tapes back in the day when we had such things. And one night I was like, okay, I think I just had that. I was having a conversation with myself going, you know what? It's been nearly 2-3 years. I think I've done pretty good. And then something popped up in my email from a company called Alternatives. And there was a talk in St. James's Church in London that evening. Never heard of the guy, Blue Marsden. Never heard of, no, that's not true. My friend had invited me to a networking event and a dinner, and somebody did soul plan readings, but a different form. So I'd kind of heard of it. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm free tonight. I can make it to London for 6:15. So I booked on it. And I'm sitting there, and Blue Marsden is talking. And suddenly I went from, I was very interested, but I felt myself going and leaning up and leaning in. And it was like, this is it. This can help your life. It can help the lives of your clients. And it's actually a whole new service that you could offer to people. It's like self-contained. And so Blue was then offering, I think it was like a one-day workshop or something like that. So I thought, should I? Yes, I should. So I signed up for that. And then lo and behold, he then says there's a thing called a practitioner, where if you want to offer soul plan readings to your clients. So I signed up for that. And yeah, that was in November 2013 that I completed the practitioner training, and a few years ago did the soul plan instructor training. And Blue Marsden said to me a couple of years after I did the practitioner, he said, Marilyn, the minute I met you, I knew that soul plan was part of your calling. I knew you'd have an affinity with it. I knew you'd be fantastic with it. And I also see you being an instructor. Now, he probably said that about being an instructor around, I don't know, 2015. But it took me several more years to do that. And when I finally did it, he again reiterated, I knew you would become a soul plan instructor, because the minute I met you that first time, I just knew. So that's how it all came about.
Yeah, and, and I love the way that you are actually really structured in, like, at the beginning, I've got enough certificates, enough training, because I think quite often we get so caught up that we have to keep doing training after training after training, and not actually putting in place what we're saying, okay, that's enough training now. Let's actually go in and do this. So, brilliant that you recognize that you needed to actually do that. And then of course the synchronicities that come along when you do that. It's like, oh, this one came up at the right time. Yeah, let me go and do that. And I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes you start something, and it's like with angelic Reiki. I did that back in 2008, but I didn't actually become a practitioner till about 2012.
Wow. It's fantastic. And that's one of my favorite things as well, synchronicity.
I love synchronicity. More people. To be quite truthful, I think we all have. Everyone has synchronicity every day. We're always being given signs and showing where we're going, but a lot of people aren't open to or looking for those synchronicities that come in or taking advantage of them when they actually do come along.
Absolutely. But I seriously, I see them, and somebody had said to me years ago, and it was just a beautiful way to put it. He said, it's like magical breadcrumbs, where, because sometimes I sit and go, is this the right thing? What am I doing? Or which way shall I go? And then I either see something, hear something, read something, somebody speaks the words, I choose it. Well, YouTube serves me what seems to be a random video, and it's the exact thing I've been thinking about, asking questions on. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, do you think that with Soul Plan, that could tell if someone's really good at synchronicity, looking for synchronicities, or is it, well, tell us more about it.
Yeah, the soul plan is very interesting. Now, it just goes on your birth name, as in the name on your birth certificate. That's it. Don't need the date of birth, don't need where you were born and what, where you're in Pisces with your moon rising and that. You don't need any of that. It's just your name. And so let's just say somebody has the same name. Technically speaking, the same words will be on the piece of paper on the soul plan. However, as a soul plan practitioner, what you say to that client, or what stands out to you, or the way that you see it weaving together, and the things that the clients respond to, completely different. So goes on your birth name. There's something what I call it the Star of David, where you plot around it, and there are 7 different points. So you've got things like your worldly goals and your worldly talents. What are you here in the world to do? And there's the upward triangle and the downward triangle. The downward triangle tends to be from the age of 0 to 30, 35, 40, depending on your life path. And that's about brilliant. That's the one you can see there on the screen. So you've got
Yeah.
the 2 triangles, and you've got the worldly, you've got the spiritual, and you've got your talents. So it's really about, what are you here in the world to do? What are your gifts? What are your talents? And then it culminates in the center in your soul destiny. So what you can see on screen, the intention is not for you to be able to read that, but it's just to show you what the report looks like. So the first page is always that what we call the Star of David, and then there is a written report, and it then goes into those things in more detail. So that's what the client receives, because we do the soul plan readings online. So client, and I give people a choice. I say, would you like me to email you the soul plan report, or do you want it to be a surprise, and shall we just reveal it during the session? And sometimes people are like, give it to me now, and others are like, oh, I'm going to wait. So however we do it, but they get a copy of that, and then we work our way around. So we look at, what are the worldly challenges, what are some of the challenges that you're facing when you come into the world? What are your worldly talents? What do you have a natural affinity and a gift for? So yes, there are things that might reveal that somebody is more in that magical realm, or somebody is more in the academic realm, etc. We then can go on and look at, well, what are your worldly goals? What do you actually want to do? What do you want to achieve? Where's your focus? And then the same happens with the upward triangle with the spiritual. So we look at, what are the spiritual challenges? And when we say spiritual, it doesn't mean that you get to a certain age and suddenly you're suddenly more spiritual, and you're sitting at the top of Mount Shasta doing OMS, which are lovely. It just means, I see it like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you've met those basic, basic needs, and you're now moving more towards self-actualization. And so again, what are some of the challenges you may face as you unfold into that next phase? What are the spiritual talents that you have? And what are, again, those spiritual goals? And then sitting in the center of all of that is what we call the soul destiny, which is the amalgamation of all of those wonderful energies. And what is your soul here to do? What is part of your calling? I say part because we've all got free will. Your soul plan could say something, but you might go, no, not for me, thanks very much. But what's really uncanny is, I might say something obscure like, psychic art might be really good for you. Now, that's not particularly common. I'm going to say at least 7 times out of 10, somebody either says, I've just signed up for a psychic art course, or they'll say, I've been thinking about doing psychic art, or they'll say, I was looking for something I wanted to do, and that sounds perfect. But oftentimes, particularly with the worldly, because by the time I'm speaking to people, they're of that certain, they're in that age bracket. Often they'll be talking in the past tense, saying, "Yes, I did do that. I have done that. I did have that challenge. I have overcome this." It's really, really uncanny. And one of the wonderful things about the Soul Plan report is I always say to people, keep the report and look at it in a few months and look at it in a few years. I've had clients get back in touch and say, "Marilyn, I've just read the Soul Plan reading 3 years, 5 years, 7 years later, and something that I didn't even notice first time round, or just thought, oh, that's interesting. It's exactly where their life is." So I always say it's like a living and breathing document, because it's growing and evolving with you. But what's really beautiful about it is it outlines, it's all about possibility and potential. It's not saying because it's in your soul plan that's going to happen, but it talks about your potential attributes. It talks about your possible challenges. And often I say to people, highlight the challenges that resonate. And sometimes people email back and go, "Well, Marilyn, I just need a highlighter pen and just have to color the whole thing in." um, but what it does is it, and when people look at it, I've had clients say it's like seeing my whole life laid out on 5 sheets of paper. It's just like, wow, which is fantastic. And I always say, think of it like a light switch. You can look at the challenges, and rather than having to go, "Oh my God, I've got to go through all these challenges," start switching on the light and do more of the attributes that call to you. Because the more you step into the attributes, it is like switching on a light in darkness. Those challenges naturally themselves start to disappear. So it's fascinating. It's amazing. If you like, I can read a little snippet of this, but I'll pause there for now for anything else you want to ask or say or comment on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And hi, Presh, and thank you for joining us. If you have any questions about soul plan readings, then please do. I had a soul plan reading. Oh my God, it's got to have been 20 plus years ago as something. It was a long, long time ago. And unfortunately, when you said you're going to do this, I went looking for mine, but it's gone. I can't find it anywhere. So it obviously disappeared at some point. Maybe because I didn't need it anymore. I don't know. But the one thing I do remember from it was that one of my challenges was to do with anger. Um, and as you said, by the time this lady actually did my reading, I had actually already overcome that challenge, and it's like, oh yeah, I've overcome that challenge now. I realised it way back, and I've overcome it. I've overcome it now. So it is a really good, amazing tool. Yeah, and I wish I'd found it, because I would have loved to have reread it now to see, what challenges I had overcome, or things that that I hadn't realised, that was still possibly. And Precious said, "Never had one done." Well, wait till the end, Presh, because there might be a little offer for you on that. So we're going by the birth name. Now, obviously, people change their names, and obviously when you get married. I mean, I know from my own guidance that I've been given over the years, that we choose our name when we're born. Our parents don't just put it out of thin air. We actually tell our parents what name we want to be called. We want to call us ourselves. And obviously, if you look at numerology, then as soon as you start changing the numbers, that's when things start changing. So if someone has changed their name, and they go, "But I don't want anything to do with my birth name," can you still do a soul plan reading on that, or you have to say, actually no, we do have to go with your birth name?
That's a great question. We always start with the birth name. I found this one out the hard way. So because I call myself Marilyn Devonish, that is my name. I never use my middle name. It doesn't appear on any documents. I'm Marilyn Devonish. So when I signed up for the practitioner training, that's the name I sent to the office. So everybody was given their soul plans, and I'm sitting there with mine, and I'm like, okay, interesting. And it was kind of interesting, but a little bit like a horoscope, do you know what I mean? Where you sort of
Hmm.
recognize things, but okay, not spot on like everyone else in the room was describing. So I just figured, well, maybe they're just overexcited. We were going to lunch, and Blue, the trainer, before I went to lunch, I says, Blue, you keep saying your birth name, your birth name, your birth name, your birth name. I said, what do you actually mean by that? And he said, oh, the name on your birth certificate. And I was like, oh. I said, that's not the name I sent to the office. Does it matter? And he went, yeah. So during lunch, bless him, he managed to somehow get the office to not just get another soul plan, but get me the printed copy and deliver it to the place where we were doing the training. When I read the soul plan with my middle name that I never use and that I do not identify with, it was like seeing my whole life laid out. And I still get goosebumps to this day when I think about it. So I always say to people, even if you call yourself Fifi Trixabel, we need the birth name, because that's the initial energy that you come into the world with. And I think a great example of this, I believe you know Sifu Boggy.
I do, yes.
So years ago, we did a soul plan reading show, and he had said to me, this is going to be tricky because my name was changed at birth. So I said to him, okay, let's do, and then he had a different name. So he had 3 different names. I'm like,
Sounds like
wow.
seafood.
Yeah, it does. And so I said, I'm going to do them all. I said, send me all 3 names. I'm going to do them all. And we did it all live, a bit like this. And we went through the 3 soul plan names, and it was very interesting about how he resonated with the name that he was given at birth that was almost immediately changed. And then the 3rd name, it was so interesting in terms of the aspects of his personality that came from that first birth name, even though he only held it for a very, very short amount of time. It was absolutely fascinating. So it was a really lovely example of the power that, and if after that, yes, you can do soul plan readings on the other names or shorter names if people have got married, if they've changed their name by deed poll, etc. That's called an overlay reading, but the initial one is always on that birth name because the energy that it holds is just fascinating.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. I'm actually going to say, I wonder if Sifu might still have that show up somewhere. Was it on his Sifu Boggy Says show?
It was the way of when
The Way of, yes.
yeah,
Oh, I think he's still got those. I'm going to go. I'm going to go and search that. And if I can, I'll put the link in
brilliant.
here. So Janeki says, if people have a reading and they need further help, how can you help them?
That is an absolutely fantastic question. And one of the things I love about the soul plans is for each, and there are 22 different combinations that you could get. For each of those combinations, it then provides you with things that you could do in terms of self-help. That's free. They don't cost any money. You might buy a book or something, but it might just say, relax, play chess. And it also gives you very specific things you could do in terms of personal development. So somebody is struggling with a particular challenge. Now, my worldly challenge was the 10-1. So I'm just going to give you a sense of what it says in terms of, let's see. So the 10-1, the challenge of the 10-1, this was mine in terms of my challenge: denial of spirituality, highly critical, self-loathing, perfectionist, isolated, insecure, must work to establish self in the spiritual. Look, when you don't get suicidal without a good dose of self-loathing and isolation and being severely critical of self. Now, when I say that now, people go, oh, Marilyn, that's not you. I say, hear what I'm saying to you. This was me. The attributes, once you get into the attributes: high frequency, yin yang balance of the male female, excellent healers, power, inventive, vocal expression, many spiritual abilities, channel, possible service incarnation. So even if if they were here from the beginning and heard the bio, you're like, how many more is there? And that was the short bio, trust me. So now that bit, the attributes, is now me. But what it said for me, and this was so interesting, it said in terms of suggested therapies: spiritual counseling, energy healing, chakra, male and female balancing, NLP, hypnotherapy, vow breaking, and spiritual awareness techniques. I did all of those things to break through those challenges. And then it said for self-help: volunteering to help others, meditation for compassion, e.g. Buddhist, practicing connecting through meditating, practicing healing, connecting to nature, spiritual literature on books, and inspiring people who have been of service. One of the first things that I did when I got into personal development, In September 2000, when I contemplated suicide, I rang the Samaritans. I was going through the phone book and I heard of this word called counselling. And I was like, I wonder if this will help me. And then I came across an advert for the Samaritans, like, my God, even better, it's free. So I rang the Samaritans, kept that poor person on the phone for 4.5 hours. That's a long time. The following year, I went back and I became a Samaritan's volunteer because I was so blown away with the power of just having someone at the end of the phone to hold the space for me. And I wanted to do that for other people. So when I saw that in the soul plan, the first thing, self-help, volunteering to help others, I'm like, oh my God, it's the last thing I ever thought I would do, but it's the first thing that I naturally did. So when I say that you look at your soul plan, sometimes it's a retrospective and other times it's a guide. So let's just say, for example, I was receiving this soul plan now and I'd never done anything like this. Then I could say, well, maybe you look into NLP, look into hypnotherapy, look into spiritual practices, start doing some meditation, go out and walk in nature. And one of my favorite things to do to this day, I'm lucky enough to live near a beautiful park called Cassioberry Park, our Green Flag award-winning park, saying that on behalf of the mayor. He's very proud of this fact, as am I, as an ex-local councillor. But I call the park office number 3. And even as I'm saying these words to you, I hadn't quite made that link and connection, but I've been saying it for years. It's on my Facebook post every summer. You're going to see pictures of grass and trees, the bandstand and the bench, which is office number 3 for me when the weather's good. I get my little beach blanket, pack my little bag with my water and my snacks and all the rest of it, my block to rest on, and off I go to the park. But I'm not a naturey person per se. I'm not going camping. I'll be going glamping, but no camping for me. But the park is one of my favorite places in the summer, or sitting by the pond in the center of town, watching the kid and the birds. And so when I look at the soul, and of course I love books now, I didn't before because I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in my 20s. But once I overcame that, I was like, wow, I actually do love books. I do love reading, hence the photo reading instructor. So that's a very long answer. So let me summarize it down now. Yes, the soul plan is also like a diagnostic, if you want to look at it in that way. Well, it will give you guides and pointers of things that you can do which specifically relate to your soul plan.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and yeah, I think back to I can't remember everything about mine, and the anger thing stood out for me, but it was so complete with what she said to me. And I think if I remember correctly, she also did a healing whilst we were there as well, which she said she could do then, or she could have done later, but we decided to do it then. But as I said, it was 20 years ago. And Precious said, what about people that don't know? So I'm guessing if you were adopted and you never ever knew your original birth name, that would be an interesting one, wouldn't it?
It would be very interesting. Now, I have to be honest, I haven't met anyone yet who didn't have that information. I have met people who go, well, my mum called me this, but my dad immediately called me that. Which one is that? So who called you that first? So it's like we're going with who said it first. Haven't come across anyone yet who has not got the information. And what I would say, don't lose any sleep over it. Just do it on the name that you have now. It is what it is. However, when you have got that birth name, that's the powerhouse. And it's not to say my Marilyn Devonish soul plan didn't resonate at all, but it wasn't that pow immediate between the eyes because I'd evolved. So it missed out some of those beginning stages. But I'm going to say, because it hasn't happened, I'm going to be speculating. But I imagine it's going to be a little bit like doing when I do a tarot reading, you do your card readings, or I do an energy session, an intuitive session. Things will come into my head that I wouldn't normally say in a way I wouldn't normally phrase it, but it's just perfect for that client. So I imagine that even if we're not seeing it on the soul plan report, if it needs to come out in that session, it will be said. or the client will put those links together and go, actually, do you know what? So I'm just speculating, but I imagine, because that's how it happens in an intuitive session, I
Yeah.
imagine it would be something similar for the soul plan. But I say, yeah, chill, relax, don't lose any sleep over it. Do it with what you've got, but ideally you start with the birth name.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. Hi, Ward. Good to see you here. Should I focus on writing my drawing, please? I think you need your soul plan read to be able to. I mean, would a soul plan be able to tell you whether you should concentrate on drawing or writing?
One of the things I would say is the soul plan kind of tells a story. So I remember one particular client, even though the numbers were very different, the aspects were very different, there was something about it every single time with almost all of the aspects, which was about some sort of teaching, sharing, supporting. And some of them specifically said high teaching vibration. Now, in my client's mind, that meant standing up in front of a classroom, point. And I said, no, 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 no. I said, don't get me. I said, look, you could be teaching in the supermarket. You're in the queue, you have a little conversation with someone, pow, the light bulb goes off. A few months later, we're talking and she's laughing. She says, Marilyn, you're not going to believe this. My clients say that a lot. She said, I'm at work and I've got a new mentor. So she's mentoring a young gentleman. And they're having a great rapport. A few weeks in, he comes to her and says, my friend has also just started and he's also got a mentor. Here's his words, but you're such a good teacher. Can you mentor my friend as well? And it was in that moment that the words landed and she remembered what I'd said about the teaching vibration. It's not about necessarily standing in front of a room. It's part of who you are. It's in your kind of DNA, if you like. And she's like, yeah. And then she started thinking of all the times in her life where she had been the person who was supporting, teaching, mentoring, sharing information, leading the way. It just wasn't standing in front of a classroom, which were people's first thought. So oftentimes a story starts to emerge as we go through each of the aspects of the soul plan. And sometimes I'm laughing already because I'm thinking of the Borg. There will be times where people are resistant to what the soul plan is saying. So if I'd read my soul plan, let's say 26 years ago, I would have been like, oh no channeling for me. And I've got no interest in what? Spirituality? I would have been completely like, get out of here. Because I was very, very skeptical of hypnosis. Now I'm a trainer of hypnosis. So I would have been resistant to the soul plan. So if somebody was reading for me, the story would be emerging and I'd be like, no, 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 no. And you can say no, you've got free will. But the story emerges and then there's a moment where suddenly people go, wow. And it lands in a way that they make it their own. And it kind of lights the path. But you, the recipient of that information, you are always in charge of the direction that you want to take it. So if you want to express the creativity through the writing, it will be through the writing. If the writing isn't for you, but you think, yeah, I want to express it through the art, then the art will be for you. If you want to express it through poetry, then the poetry will be for you. If you want to express it through cooking, which apparently is very creative. I don't like cooking, but I love eating, but it's very creative. I get that, but however it will be, something, it's like a spark is lit inside of people. And I had one client who would have been in her mid 50s at the time. We get to the end of the soul plan reading and she said, Marilyn, thank you for explaining my entire life to me. That's kind of profound. And one of the things I always say about the soul plan readings, it gives people permission. Because when they see the words in black and white, oftentimes it's something they've always secretly wanted to do, or they've wondered about, or they've like, oh, am I really any good at that? Could I really do it? And when it's right there in front of you in your soul plan, it's like the universe is saying, there you go. If you needed permission, here it is in your email inbox and coming out of someone's mouth. And that for me is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think that 26 years ago, you wouldn't have gone for a soul plan reading anyway because it wouldn't have been right for you at the time. So, it's kind of like the universe gives you that nudge when it's the time to get a reading or anything else that you might do. You're not going to get it before you're ready to hear that information.
I literally would have laughed them out of time. Because when I look at the whole soul plan, it's ridiculous. It describes what I'm doing to a T. Pioneering, this is my worldly talents, pioneering, intuitive, spiritually open, adventurous, assertive, articulate, visionary, creative. That's who I am. Well, up until the age of 32, I was terrified of public speaking. I could not even speak to my own family. So the word assertive, I might have seen it in a book or heard go to assertiveness training, would have meant nothing to me. Now I would say pretty assertive, maybe sometimes a little bit too much. But the
No.
certainly not. But some people have said that to me. I'm like, whatever. So possible challenges: highly sensitive, too much so, ethereal, ungrounded, manipulative, misuse of intuition, difficulty fitting in, victim of abuse, right foot issue stepping forward. Even victim of abuse, that's a random thing right there. I was sexually abused from the age of 7 to 17. Now, let me preface that by saying, if you happen to have the worldly talents as a 5-5, that doesn't mean you were too. That part probably won't resonate for you, or you might have been bullied. Who knows? Not everything has to resonate, but for me, it all resonated. And right foot issues, I had problems with my right foot, inexplicable problems as a child. It used to swell up almost a bit like an elephantitis thing. Nobody knew why. The right foot issues about stepping forward, stepping into your life. I'm not saying that's what was happening, but I just remember as a child being at the doctor's with my mum and they couldn't figure out. And then actually, that's the one where I ripped the tendons on it in my 20s. I did it again a little bit later on, and then I ripped the tendons again in 2015 when I was on a Caribbean cruise. It's ridiculous. When I finally got that sorted, I have not thought about it since I started doing the block therapy stuff. But that was always the ankle that had vulnerabilities. And often, because sometimes there are physical aspects that are specifically mentioned in the soul plan, people go, oh yeah, I have had problems with my kidneys. Oh, yeah. And sometimes it's just saying, well, look, if you were to do more of this, you could potentially, it's not making any healing claims, but you could have potentially helped to reduce, calm, or even possibly avert that situation. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely fascinating. I might get mine redone at some point.
Maybe we'll do a part two where we'll do a little bit like a
Just
see-through boggy thing where we can do part of your soul plan as another of these. I think that could be fun.
Yeah, no, that'd be fun, especially if we can go, yeah, I've ticked that off, ticked that off. Ooh, I haven't ticked that one off yet. Which would be an interesting concept. So is it easy to, have a soul plan reading with you? You know, is it, I had to go. I mean, this was obviously 20 odd years ago, so we didn't have online stuff. I physically had to go and see this woman. But I take it, well, you've been talking there, it's just online now.
Yeah, so I've all of my soul plan readings have been done online, and my soul plan practitioner trainings for people who want to learn the skills so they can add it to their own tool set for clients. So basically, someone books a session, they send me their birth name via email. I give them the magic question: do you want the report now or do you want it when we do the session? And either I'll email the report over. We meet on Zoom. If they've already seen the soul plan, I still bring it up on screen anyway. But then what I do is I will explain in more detail what the little, because there are lots of little, it will say, oops, that way, squiggles on the soul plan.
Yeah.
So I explain what the little squiggles are, what they mean. We also go through, because you get this as the basic sort of template, if you like. So I will then expand upon all of this, tell people more about, well, what does that 10-1 represent? What is the 5-5 ethereal about? What does it mean when you have the 6-6? What I call the almost like the serpent, if you like. It's like a seahorse. What does that actually mean? That's the one for creativity. So for the person who's asking about, the previous question,
Yeah,
if they've got a lot of
right.
6-6 energy in there, because that's about being artistically creative, either artistically, traditionally, or in business, they might find that they've got a lot of that creative energy. So I'll go through, explain what all of that is, and then as we're going through, we're also seeing what story emerges. And then you're absolutely correct, well remembered, because that culminates, then we close with that healing piece where we do the soul plan blueprint realignment. So clearing off all of the old energies, any dark energies, anything that's out of alignment. It's almost like imagining the hologram of your soul plan. We clean all of that up, and then you reintegrate it and also like reactivate your soul plan. So you start living and breathing into the aspects that you want. Traditionally, the soul plan reading is traditionally an hour. I always say to people, allow an hour and 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes. So we're not kind of, galloping through, because there's always so much to say and people have questions. So I like to allow time for that. But yeah, they just book a session. I'll send you the report. We agree a date. We meet on Zoom. I do the reading, and I also give clients a recording of that as well. Because what I don't want is people sitting there going, what did she say again? What did she say again? It's just too much. There's so much information coming at you. I just say, relax, just receive the information. And then at a later date, you can go back and watch and listen to the recording to your heart's content. And of course, they've got the a copy of the report PDF so that they can go through, print it out, etc. But yeah, very easy.
Yeah. See, that would have been brilliant for me to have the recording. Although if she did record it, it would have been on the old cassette tape, which I wouldn't be able to play now anyway.
I've
Because
actually still got one of those in the cupboard. I have, I'm not kidding. The player with the handle that was sort of portable.
yeah,
Yeah, it's in the cupboard, but it's backs onto this room. It's pretty much brand new, because when I bought that, the CDs were just starting to hit the market. And so I started moving more to burning CDs. So I didn't really use it, but it's still pretty much in the box.
brilliant. So if you come across any old tapes, you can play them.
As long as they're still going.
Yeah, that's true. So, as you know, I do guided meditations and I read angel and oracle cards. And each week, I like to ask my guests whether they would like me to do a mini guided meditation or pull an oracle card for themselves and those watching. So, Marilyn, what would you like me to do?
Oh, when you said it, it's like, oh, I want both. But let me give me a moment. Give me a moment. Let's see. What do we want? Do we want guided meditation? Do you know? I'm always doing tarot readings for others and oracle card readings. So I would love you to pull a card, please. It'd be really nice to be on the receiving end of that.
Funny enough, I have the cards right in my hand as we speak. Amazing that. So, as always, I give the cards a quick cleanse and a bless. So, and obviously, when I do the cards for what you need to know for your highest good at this moment in time. Because although I work with the past, with past life regression, when I take people back to the past, it's to learn to heal from, so it's not affecting them in the present. And when I take people into the future, it's so they can see, understand, and know their future, and then know the steps so they can go back to the present and not worry about it. So, what does Marilyn and everyone who's watching this, either live or the replay, need to know for their highest good at this moment in time?
Ooh, exciting.
Okay, so let's see what card wants to come out. So you have got grace and gratitude. Through gratitude, joy expands.
Oh, very nice.
Isn't that a beauty? Isn't that a beautiful card?
Lovely. Lovely. And
So
what's that coming off the hand? Is she holding like a pot or something, or is there energy coming from the
there
hand?
is energy coming from the hand.
Okay.
There is energy. So let me hold that up again.
I love it. I absolutely love that. It's beautiful.
It is a beautiful card. So obviously, what it's saying for you, Marilyn, is that and this really ties in with your personality, and I know through reading your posts, etc. This is more confirmation for you that when you have that grace and gratitude, that joy really comes through and shows in you, and it just expands and it does affect the people around you. You have that the energy that can lift people up, and bring them into that higher energy because of the joy and gratitude that you automatically have anyway for your life. So I think this is a beautiful card for you and for everyone watching. This is a reminder that when you have grace and gratitude in your life, the amount of joy that comes in, even if it's the smallest gratitude for, I don't know, the sun was shining today, or I had the money to pay my electric bill today. It doesn't matter when you have that grace and gratitude, it really does bring that joy into life, and it's brilliant that it's a confirmation uh, for you, Marilyn. And Janeki says, I love that card. I know it's a really beautiful card, isn't it? I love it when that card comes out. So, Marilyn, do you have any insights or thoughts or last words of wisdom to leave our viewers?
Absolutely. But before I say that, I'm going to just say one thing about grace and gratitude. I have been playing the gratitude game since I was about, I don't know, 12 years old. I watched a film with an actress called Hayley Mills, and she
Yeah.
went to and went to this village where everyone was miserable, and she used to play the glad game. So when all the stuff was going on with the abuse, and I watched that film, I used to just find something each day to be glad about. And then when I got into this line of work, I started doing the more official gratitudes back in the year 2000. I think it was 2013, I set up a magic and gratitude group and an online gratitude program and all of that sort of stuff. So it's my life. It's my absolute life. And this was before the movie The Secret and all of that. And I was in America last week, emceeing an event. It was a kind of big event, people like Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Michael Beckwith, and that sort of stuff. And one of the things that people were saying, there's about 1,800 people there. One of the words that people used a lot, which is not the word that I tend to use a lot, they said, oh, you're so graceful. You're so elegant. I love the way you hold the space. You're so kind. But that word graceful came up several times. It wasn't just about the way I move and all the rest of it. They just said you do it with, and Greg Braden always says to me, since I met him 7 or 8 years ago, he says, Marilyn, I'm always so delighted to see you here running this event because you're so kind. And the way you hold the space with such grace and such kindness, I'm seriously, I'm telling you the truth. So that word is not a word that I use. Grace is not a word I use often, but I heard it over and over and over again. This would have been last Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And today it's Monday. So just a few days
I
ago. So
know,
that I just
and
wanted to
there it
say that.
is.
That's amazing. So, in terms of some final thoughts, one of the things I'm going to say, there's an old saying about not leaving this world and this planet with your song still inside of you. So, if you feel that there is something either you feel called to do, if we talk about in archetypal terms, where you hear the call and you step over the threshold, or something that you've always just wanted to do, you think, oh, it'll be really fun to do some art, to go dancing, to learn this particular skill, if it's not harming anyone, and it might even bring something good into your life, and it might even also help other people, and it doesn't have to do those things, it might just be for the fun of it. If there's something that you feel that you are drawn to, and you have the capacity, the energy, the time, the resource, the skill, the opportunity to do it, I would say go for it, because it could just be your soul giving you a little tap, tap, tap on the shoulder, giving you a little nudge and going, over here, come over here, come over here, the water's fine.
Beautiful, wonderful words to leave us with. Thank you so much for that reminder, because we do need that reminder sometimes. So I hope everyone you've enjoyed this conversation and found insightful, because I know I definitely have. So if people can connect with you, Marilyn, how do they do that? And do you have anything coming up at the moment? Any free gifts or offers that I know you might have?
Wonderful. Well, the easiest way, it's a bit of a mouthful, so I'm going to say it, I'm going to spell it. My main website is transformationstm.com. It's TRANCE, as in hypnotic trance, FORMATIONSGM.com. So transformationstm.com is my main website. It's humongous because I didn't build it personally, but it's been growing since 2001. So when you land on the site, there's a red button that says What's New. Click the red What's New button, a panel will slide out, and you can have a little bit of a scroll and see what's coming up. If you specifically want information about the soul plans, and it's transformationstm.com/soul plan. And what I have put together, and Rae has the link, so that will be somewhere around this as well, is I've put together a little package where you can go into what I call the Soul Plan Metaverse, where it's an online metaverse space. You get to download a demo Soul Plan, so you can read through a whole Soul Plan for yourself. There's an interview that I did years ago for Colourful Radio where I was speaking to the presenter. They'd never heard of the Soul Plan, so I'm explaining it to them. There's a link if you want to book a Soul Plan reading, and I've added a code there, which is Rae10. And if you use that code, it will give you 10% off of a Soul Plan reading. So I'd say that will be the easiest thing to do, is go to the main website. My email is Marilyn, Marilyn at transformationstm.com. And I'm on all the usual socials, except for LinkedIn, who closed my account down about a year and a half ago. Still don't know why. Apparently it's because I talked about angel readings, but whatever. But, in terms of X and Facebook is my platform of choice. I am on X, but not that often. I have also got Instagram. But yeah, you can find me on the socials as Marilyn Devonish, and that's DEV for Victor, ONISH.
And I will literally put the links to all of that in the comments. So people just need to click on it and they'll be taken straight there as if by magic.
Do you like a bit of magic?
Oh, we love our magic, especially as everyone that who sees me knows that's one of my words for this year. Magic and curiosity were my 2 words for this year.
I love that.
I know, it's brilliant, isn't it? So thank you so much, Marilyn, for sharing your wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. And of course, for everyone watching, if you are feeling called to explore your path more deeply, then the Soul Path Discovery Program still has a couple of spaces open. And now this is a one-to-one transformational journey to support you in healing, gaining clarity and aligning with your soul's true purpose. And if it resonates, then I'd love to invite you to a free Soul Path Discovery call where we'll connect over video. I'll pull a couple of Angel Oracle cards and you'll receive guidance and support where you are on your journey. And you'll also learn what's included in the program and have the chance to ask any questions so you can decide whether it's the right step for you. So all you need to do is message me direct to book that. I've had some brilliant calls so far with people. And as I said, I've still got a couple of spaces left. And of course, I have a couple of incredible free gifts for you designed to help you connect more deeply with your guides and angels and explore your future. So do check out the link in the comments after the show to grab yours. And again, thank you everyone so much for watching. And thank you, Janeki, Presh and Wald, for being brave enough to say hello, ask questions. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe. It is free. And hit that bell button to be notified of when my show goes live or I post new guided meditations. And remember, every time you like, share, comment, subscribe, support any of my work on social media, Marilyn, any of my guests' work, you're really helping us get our message out there of bringing that light and love and information to the world. It's like that butterfly effect. So you're doing your part to actually help people remember their divine presence and step into their purpose to take control of their own destiny. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.